worst and best Disventure Camp characters. To find out, I looked through hundreds of rankings, opinions, and even rewatched the whole series. So let's start with Season 1. Here, the worst character is Nick. Bro had zero personality and zero contribution to the storyline. And I get it, every season needs some filler characters just for the early boots, but give him something. Make him funny, charming, or at least make us relate to him. Nick had none of these things. Although he never returned to Disventure Camp, Nick got his redemption. Because a year ago, he started a reaction series on YouTube where he watched some episodes of All Stars. On the other hand, the best character is Fiore. Personally, I think that she's the best villain of the series. Her strategy reminded me of Alejandro. Both of them used the element of surprise and manipulated people based on their fake personalities. But if you think about it, in some way they were actually polar opposites. Why? Because Alejandro doubled down on his strength, charm, and leadership qualities, standing up as a great ally, while Fiore seemed so innocent and naive that no one saw her as a threat. Now, aside from her great strategy, she also carried most of the season with her lines.
A little girl has more balls than you!
But she wasn't entirely evil. Some of her actions were motivated by her past trauma.
My mother never loved me, and I know her life would be much better if I never existed. She's told me she thinks I'm a monster. I know she's right, but it still hurts to hear.
On the other hand, her friendship with Alex showed us that she is capable of empathy. But unlike Alejandro, she took care of business and eliminated her ally the first moment he stood in her way. Season 2. The worst character is Kai. He felt like a bootleg version of Dawn. I mean, they both have energy reading powers and love nature, but Dawn used to creep others out, gave us funny moments, and influenced the challenges with her powers. Kai was just there. But what really convinced me that Kai is inspired by Dawn is his original design. Also, look at this. Doesn't this look like Dr. Pericle from Scooby-Doo? Still, the best thing about his character was his relationship with Maggie, and probably this tiny moment.
But of course, an idiot son of a motherfucker could never notice.
Now, the best character from Season 2 is Aiden. First, his personality was very iconic. He was the first transgender character, had probably the best design in the entire show, and has watched all the previous seasons of Disventure Camp and Total Drama. Plus, Aiden had all the traits of a great protagonist. He auditioned for the first season, but he was refused. He had conflicts with the main villains of the season, and made right with James. Also, I think that he felt like the most rational character out of the second cast. Season 3, All Stars. Here, the worst character is definitely Jake. Dude was completely nuts. Remember when he caused James's elimination just because he didn't believe his theory about Tom and Aiden being together?
Listen, boy toy.
Or when he caused Ashley's elimination just because he wanted Aiden out? Just think about it. Jake pushing 30 in this season and had the emotional intelligence of a 10-year-old. Something that we didn't really see a season earlier. For All Stars, it was pretty hard to choose the best character. I don't know what the deal is, but the All Star seasons just seem to be cursed. Yet after some careful analysis, I think the best character is actually Gret. Why? Gret was among the few contestants who actually improved as a character. She overcame her body insecurities, she broke up with Yul, and she became a better person. Plus, her friendship with Gabby was the perfect redemption for all the bad stuff she did 2 seasons earlier. But it would have been nice to see this development happening a little bit earlier in the season. Now, let's move on to Staff Stories. Here, the worst character is definitely Christoph McLean, aka Crystal's father. I mean, he was basically Chris, but not the TDI version. The Revenge of the Island version. In the episode, we saw how he emotionally abandoned Crystal as a child, and then years later, he tried to manipulate her into joining his own show. Man, that was low. Alex seems like a great father compared to this guy. But here's the deal. His horrible personality was actually foreshadowed back in 2023 by Oliver.
What is he doing here? I already cleaned the dining room and all the bathrooms!
But back then, this scene was a reference to Chris McLean. Now, as for the best character, The decision was actually pretty hard. The best candidates were Jensen and Marcus. In both their respective episodes, they showed us parts of their personality that we never saw before. Marcus was more than a bus driver, and Jensen was more than a villain. However, the best character of this miniseries has to be Jensen. I don't know about you guys, but for me, seeing his tragic backstory, how he lost the only person that ever loved him, made me feel more empathetic towards him. Plus, the connection he had with the Wolf Club added more complexity to his character. Hopefully we'll see him in a future season. But until then, let's move on to Tom Jake. Here, the worst characters of the series are the dads. Like in Crystal's case, both Tom and Jake had shitty fathers. Were all the families in the Disventure Camp universe kind of broken? But if I had to choose only one, it must be Tom's dad. Because think about it, Jake's dad was an asshole. He really hurt Jake and abandoned him when he needed him most. But Tom's dad? He was a straight up monster. Tom and his mother had to move around just to get away from him. And we saw that he still has nightmares related to his childhood. Now, for the best character, things are a little complicated, because just by looking at the title, we can see who are the best and most important characters. But to thicken the plot, I decided to choose someone out of the duo. So the best character of this spin-off is Lucia. When she was first introduced, she had a very serious tone, which fits the role of a chief officer. However, we quickly learned that she's caring as a person. If she looks familiar, well, you already saw her at the end of the first season. I remember that at some point she called Disventure Camp trash, but then we got this scene.
Gather the crew. It's time.
Oh, hell yeah! Reed, I was looking for the remote to turn that trash off, I swear.
Even though she's not that consistent throughout the spin-off, she's still the best addition to the cast. Season 4, Carnival of Chaos. Here, the worst character is... I'm sorry, but I had to choose Isabel. Now, I live in a pretty religious country, so I was very excited to see a religious character being included among such a diverse cast. But then, some suspicions started to occur.
They will be as lambs, flocking to me either as their shepherd or to the slaughter.
I don't know how many of you got the reference, but in Christianity, the lamb is seen as a symbol of innocence and purity. Jesus himself was compared to a lamb. But then I continued watching. Maybe it was just a small mistake from the creators. Yeah, it came up again.
I'll pray for forgiveness.
And again.
So my heart is telling me, go for gift 1. But the devil on my shoulder keeps whispering, hey, gift 3 is right there.
And again.
Even if I dedicate my life to the Lord, I dedicate my body to the algorithm.
As much as I wanted to convince myself that nothing was wrong with her character, there are a lot of signs that she was a subtle mockery of Christianity. Now let's talk about the best character of this season. Honestly, I was totally undecided. My favorite is Ted, the most likable is Hannah, and the strongest is clearly Anastasia. But in the end, the best character has to be Hannah. I really like Ted, but let's be real, there's no way he could have been the best with just 4 episodes of screen time. On the other hand, I also really liked Anastasia in the first episode of the season. But then she became way too overpowered. To the point that even Trevor's voice actor said this.
How? Literally how? This is so impossible.
But compared to those two, Hannah wasn't overpowered and got a lot of screen time. She was also friendly and charismatic, so she made a lot of friends. Yet if you rewatch the show, you'll see that everyone close to her ends up being eliminated. This makes me think that she might get a revenge arc in the future. Besides all of these, she also used to have a goth phase. If you like this fun fact, I have 49 more that are just as interesting.